Urgency. How much value do you place on your clients having urgency to get involved today? It's paramount, isn't it? And how many times have you had a client come walking in the door and say, you know, we went to something like this before, but it was really high pressure. Or, I don't want any high pressure. Or, this isn't going to be a high pressure sales presentation, is it? You've all experienced that, right? Well, what's the difference between pressure and urgency? That's what you're here to tell us, Paul. Pressure is a result of a values conflict from an outside source. It's somebody pushing you to do something you don't want to do.
Urgency is to help you to do something you want to do.
No, urgency is something you generate within yourself. It's self-created. It doesn't come from outside. If you want a sense of urgency within your clients, they have to build it in themselves. All you can do is assist them in doing that. Now again, I look to the outside world and I say, okay, well, where are there examples of pressure and where are there examples of urgency? And what's the difference? And that's where I've come up with the understanding that urgency is developed from the inside and pressure comes from the outside. What's an urgent situation? An urgent situation is one where, here's one example that comes to mind immediately. You maybe have done this before. I saw it just the other night and I started laughing. We're going to the movie theater. We pull up and there's a gentleman dropping his wife off at the curb so he can go and park the car and she can get the tickets. Why?
So they can get in there quicker to go see the movie. So part of the night is set up.
Or
find the time.
Or
Because someone else might get there before them.
Don't want a bad seat. Want to be able to find a seat. Don't want to have to sit apart. Now, would you say that's pressure or urgency? And there's the difference. They've created it within themselves as a result of a fear of loss. All urgency is built around a fear of loss. Pressure is not necessarily built around a fear of loss. Now, you can see urgency actually in the movies. Since I'm at the movies now, let's go inside. You see urgency built in movies. And one thing I noticed about urgency is that there's things that can add impact to urgency. One of the things that can add impact to urgency is questions. If you want to help people build urgency, ask them questions that relate to the urgency or the situation that you want to be urgent. Give you an example. What are you going to do about what will happen if, now they have to go inside, make an internal representation of what it is that you're saying, and that will build that sense of urgency. You can see this in the movies when somebody's like, oh my God, or you see it in real life if you're around my family much, but somebody's freaking out and then somebody else comes up and goes, oh, what are you going to do about it? And all of a sudden it's worse. Right?
You come from an Italian family too?
Irish Catholic, man. Bunch of drinkers with bad manners. But that's my family. Urgency can be compounded by questions. And it's important that you understand that. Because you can tell these people all about the first day benefits of getting involved today, and the charter membership that they'll receive, and the bonus time, and all of the things that they'll get from that. And that's not going to build urgency. That's going to create pressure. What will build urgency is asking things like, what are you going to do when hotel rooms are $210 a night everywhere? That builds urgency. What's going to happen if you go to schedule your next vacation and you can't even get in because there's no availability because it's booked up? That's going to build urgency. Anything you can do that will get them to go inside and develop this sense of pressure on their own becomes urgency. You had a question?
When building urgency, because you do it,
I say yes to doing it throughout the entire course of the presentation. And I'll tell you what, here, there's something I've developed which I call the graduated urgency model. Because you can't have somebody come in, walk through the door of the project, and say, "So you going to buy today?" and expect to build urgency. That's going to create pressure. One thing about urgency is that it's built over time. Okay? There's time when we go back to the analogy of the movie theater and the husband dropping the wife off to get the tickets so they can get a good seat or so that it's not sold out. That happened over the course of time. They were at home, they were eating, and they started talking about it. And then they started getting ready, and somebody was moving too slow. And then it got worse, and then they hit 2 red lights on the way that they thought they might breeze through, and now it's even worse. And then she says, or he says, "What are we going to do if it's sold out?" And we've got a heightened sense of urgency at that point. It builds over time. You can look at it in hospital situations too. It's not as pleasurable to view as movie situations, but it's the same thing. You go into a hospital where there's some crisis going on, urgency can be built over time and questions add to it. What are you going to do about this? How are you going to handle? What about? What if? Write this down. Graduated urgency model. Start off with, at the beginning of your presentation, when you're talking to your clients and they've just sat down and you're just getting to know them a little bit, start off with, "Our owners enjoy." Our owners enjoy. Or our owners experience, or our owners anything. Okay? Just our owners is what I'm... And then finish it with, "Our owners enjoy the availability of day use here, 365 days a year, yada, yada, yada." Next, a few minutes down the road, you shift to, "If you become an owner..." Now, is that a little more urgent than "our owners"? Then, a few minutes later down the road, and you do this as you feel comfortable and you develop the skill and you know when to make these shifts. You'll find these people becoming more attracted to you through doing all of these things much quicker. When you become an owner, then, as an owner, you will and then just right beneath that, you, Y-O-U, / yours, either or. Your resort, your vacation. So we've taken them from an outside disassociated place of "our owners enjoy" to we're talking about them as owners, and we've done it in a graduated fashion. You know, the human body can't detect a temperature change of 1 degree an hour.
Yes, it cannot.
Cannot. There's a special device they made years ago when I was selling solar that saved energy, and it was because you could go to sleep at night, set it at 72 degrees, it'd drop your temperature an hour, or a degree an hour throughout the course of the night. You'd wake up in the morning and you're not cold, because it's so gradual and it's been done over the course of 8 hours of sleep. 8-degree difference, you wake up and you're not going to notice it. Same thing with this graduated urgency model. We start off little, and then we get up to the point where it's your resort, your payments, your exchange,